Muy buenas tardes, todos los ministros allá
Good afternoon,
reunidos
all the ministers there in San Felipe,
Venezuela,
in San Felix state of Bolivia, or Bolivar, Venezuela, with the Reverend Neftal Diaz. It is a great privilege for me to be able to greet you and to know that you are in these studies, which are of great blessing. All this material, as Neftali tells me, that you have been receiving from Valencia, from all this work, the printing shops, the work that they are carrying out in all the presses, and also carrying this work there in Venezuela. Besides Valencia, also in all parts of Venezuela. And aware that this is a time of preparation, there has to be something that prepares us. And what prepares each one of us is the Word. Each individual is given the material to prepare himself for what is going to receive. And God has left us this time. He has given us everything we need to prepare ourselves for our transformation, and always keeping our eyes, our sight on heavenly things. Because as the sacred scriptures say, as Jesus said, for our redemption is very near. It is very near for God to fulfill everything that He has already promised. And it is in our time, it is today, it is in the present. It is the time where God is fulfilling everything that remains to be fulfilled. So therefore, everything that helps the congregations which are being prepared for those promises to be fulfilled in each one of them, we are looking for the best way for everyone to receive that preparation through the printing places, writings, audios, and in all the means that are there, so that in this work that God is carrying out in this end time, in these years that God has left us with, we don't know how many they are, but they are few. So let's make a good use of this time, because we have only few days, few months, and we don't know how many years. I wish that it is this same year that God fulfills everything quickly. But we know that there is a time of preparation, which we can't live here until everyone is ready. That will come in a progressive manner in those days, both the resurrection and the adoption. The transformation of our bodies will come in a progressive manner as well. Just like all the revelation has been progressive, so also those events will be taking place during in not less than 30, around there to 40 days, which is a period of time in which maybe a little earlier all those events will be taking place, in which God's people are already prepared. In other words, this is the important time. It is key, because upon this time depends the final preparation that the people need to obtain those promises. No one who allows this stage to pass by him or her can be raptured. Anyone who doesn't take advantage of it and listen and hear the voice of the teaching in the age of the cornerstone, the final stage in the most holy place of the spiritual temple of the Lord, which comes out from the midst of the two cherubims, the two golden cherubims, and also of olive wood. Whoever does not hear that voice coming from there, which is the voice of the teaching under the tent, such a person can't be raptured. But we know that there's a people, yes, who would be listening to that voice, who would be receiving all that final knowledge to go to the marriage supper of the Lamb. The people who would be being prepared for that event. Because remember that the people weren't ready. Neither the ministers nor the brethren. They weren't ready to receive their adoption, their transformation. They would have to go through the great tribulation at that time. But thanks to God that He has left us this time, and also aware that there was a vision that God had to fulfill, and out of love of His name, out of love of His elect, then God deferred that wrath. And if it is not that He has eliminated it, because the divine judgments will always come upon the earth, the judgment is already prepared. And God, by postponing that burning day like a furnace, in that time of the breach, it is a time where God then prepares His church, His bride. The time when it wasn't known how God was going to fulfill all that. We have been talking during this in these audios about everything that entails or that is entailed in this stage that we are fulfilling as the days go by. And we truly see how God has taken care of this stage to such an extent that as it is being fulfilled and the word being spoken and the word being incarnate, the closer we are to God, the closer we are to His presence. In other words, there is that formula to each time one to get closer to God. And God desires that His children get so close to Him that they resemble Him so much that He transforms them, that He gives them their eternal and glorified body. And that is what He is doing. As days go by, God is giving us more and more knowledge to get closer and closer to His presence, that our bodies are fused with the theophany, and there we will always be with the Lord. That is something glorious, what God is doing in this time in the midst of the people. It is something so great that many prophets and righteous people wish to see, wish to hear, and didn't have that opportunity. But blessed are your eyes because they see, your ears because they hear, because to us it is granted to know all these mysteries of the kingdom of God, and to know everything that would be spoken under the tent, under what Brother Branham said, I long. In other words, if he longed, it means he felt in his heart. He wanted to hear what was being spoken, or what would be spoken there, because he knew that it was going to produce the rapturing faith. In other words, if we already have a sample of what God showed the Reverend William Branham on 5 occasions where the power of God was manifested, that shows that in the last day, in the final stage of the third pole, He would give His church, His children, all that power, but not partially, but in all His fullness. He says, I can almost stretch myself to reach it. And you and I reached it. We have reached it. We already have the place. We are the people. We have the ministries. We have the message. We have everything. And we are already close to obtaining the promise. In other words, what Brother Branham tried to achieve and couldn't, you and I have achieved it. And the crowning, the final part of that is our transformation, which God will fulfill, because that is thus says the Lord, and God will fulfill His promise in you and in me, and that can't fail. That will hit so in the target, like the target is the target. In other words, we are going to reach that goal. We shall reach our transformation. Remain holding on to the word. Don't look to the side. Don't look to the left or to the right. Look in front. Look towards the goal, towards the transformation. No matter the difficulties, the trials, the struggles you have in life, all of that is God molding your character, which is the only thing we can take away from here, the character. So all things will work together for the good, for God's chosen ones. Continue living the things which are not convenient, things that don't reflect the sixth dimension. God is helping us and will continue to help us, because He who began the work will perfect it. How will He perfect it? And how will He perfect that work of masterpiece that began on the day of Pentecost? And up to now, that great spiritual temple of the Lord, He is going to perfect it by giving us that eternal body. So on this path that we have exited or come out of Egypt, from this Gentile kingdom, which we have already left towards the promised land, and we are now in front, about to cross Jordan on dry land. All those trials, all those struggles will always work for the good. In other words, the one who has received the Lord should not look at all these things to become discouraged, but to gain more strength. That is why He said to him, be strong and of good courage. In other words, it will not be easy, but God will be with us, and God is with us. In other words, we can't look at these situations to be discouraged, but to be more encouraged and to have more strength, and aware that there is a fight against, it is not against flesh or blood but against principalities and powers. And we are also aware that there are also angels watching over us, taking care of us, so that we can obtain the victory. So onwards, and in this time of preparation, ministers gathered there in Saint Felix, San Felipe, Venezuela, and all other places, always keep the congregations aware of everything that is happening in this end time, without taking your eyes off the promises and how God is fulfilling everything, so that you don't miss it and don't miss what God has already promised since the olden times, the Old Testament and also the New Testament. What John the Baptist, Jesus, the apostles, the seven angel messengers, the Reverend William Branham, and the angel of the Lord Jesus Christ, William Santiago, spoke all that clearly. Keep all that. Keep the congregations in expectation, because great things God will do in the end time, in the midst of the church, which is the resurrection and the transformation. Before that comes, we must be taking advantage of the time in these studies which are done during the week, and also on Fridays and on Sundays and Saturdays, when there are days of study, and also the days that Brother Miguel also has these studies which are of great blessing for all the people of God. And the things that you already see that are not convenient, which reflect the fifth dimension, leave them and leave it as soon as possible, lest you find yourself in the end with something that will be an impediment to receive the promises and blessings of God. Remember that In one hand is the blessing, but in the other is the divine judgment. And we all want the blessings. But remember that judgment always begins at home. So let us fix our house, our home, our bodies as a spiritual temple, and also physically our home, our life, and everything, because we want to receive God's blessings. God will continue helping us. God will continue showing us how we should be before His presence. Because remember, the presence of God is always in the midst of His people. And we know how the presence of God is in His people, how God always visits His people. Therefore, in that visit that God is having today in the midst of His people, let us listen to all the things that God is doing today in the present time, and let us take advantage of that voice of teaching, that voice that is helping us, bringing everything that we need to obtain the rapturing faith. And many times we listen or we hear we listen to other things even within the same group, which you should examine, and if it is not according to the word, and if it is something that brings divisions and discord and debates, leave it. Get out of all those places where there is discord. Remember that this is an individual matter. Here there is no group that makes little groups on one side and on the other side trying to I have this, I have that. No. It is one with God individually. And many times they use those groups that several people get together, and there they start to comment and talk, and instead of being of a blessing, although many times it helps because important material is distributed, but other times they are used for other things that don't edify the believer at all. Others stay in a group where they are already openly against the divine program, and they say, I'm going to stay there to see how they are doing. Or let's listen to see what they say. They are doing the same thing that Eve did. She looked, and what she did was a little glance towards the world. She paid a little bit of attention to Satan, and there the enemy grabbed her. So don't give an ear to those things. On Saturday we are going to possibly be talking about some things that happened there in Eden, and how one falls just by a little glance and can be trapped. Then to get out, it becomes difficult, and also without realizing it, he becomes an instrument of the enemy. So if you are in the things where what is being spoken about is negative things, what would you be doing there? That doesn't edify you and wastes your time. You better focus on the canons, let's say on one with God. That is the best church, let's say, that you can have. God and you, two of you. And in the congregations, when they have this type of groups, as long as it is in harmony, I'm not against that they make groups to send messages to each other and everything. I speak in general, in groups that have already told me, asking my permission if they can leave a group that speaks negatively to begin with. I didn't tell them to get into groups. Each one is an individual and can do with his life what he sees convenient. You have free will, examine it by the word, and there you can see if it is convenient or not. I myself am not in any of those groups, so you can start there by taking my advice. But I am not against that. On the contrary, many times they are of great help, and they take advantage of this mechanism that is in this time that God has allowed to live in, the children of God to have access. But remember that in the millennium there will be none of that in eternity. In other words, soon we will be getting used not to have to depend on any of such, and always have in your congregations the screens, the satellites, ready to receive everything that will be happening from here in Cayey, Puerto Rico, where this sharing has been like a family sharing, as we always do. And remember that we do it with much love. I do it with sincerity from my heart, because I love you, and I wish that all of you, together with your congregations, are prepared for the transformation. That is the desire of my heart, and I know it is yours for your congregations that God has allowed you to pastor. May God bless you and keep you. Thank you very much, Neftali, for this opportunity that you allow me to greet you and all the ministers gathered there. And always praying for Brother Miguel Bermudez Marin, that we always cover him with your prayers, and thus in such fellowship always with him and with all the ministers, we will obtain the great victory in love divine. So pray much for this activity of tomorrow, Friday and Saturday, and the one of Sunday, where we want God to continue helping us, and God to continue showing us everything that we need to know, that we have, which we have in the books, written in books, and also we have them in the messages. In other words, everything as an audio that I said, which I mentioned recently, I think it was today, we have everything condensed in a short time, and God will be having and is having this revival in a short time, which is of a certain time already established by God, and from one moment to another, this stage in which we have begun will be closed. So let's take advantage of this stage where we are to prepare ourselves as ministers and also the congregations for transformation. May God bless you and may God keep you all. And thank you very much for your kind attention, all of you who will be listening to these words of greeting which I have offered you at this time. And we always have our heart and our mind and our gratitude to God for having sent us this powerful message, which will prepare the church bride to be transformed and raptured in our beloved brother and friend William Soto Santiago,